Hi, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and on this podcast, we're going to talk about some deep stuff. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, and often, the only person who can't see that is you. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you're from, there's greatness in you. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, life, business, and relationship coach, and welcome to the Transformation Starts Today podcast, where I interview leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life as they share their story, empowering lessons they've learned along the way, and perspectives to help you create an extraordinary life without regret starting today. Today, we have the pleasure of being with my friend and real estate queen, Sarmiento-Steinwald. Chat is an entrepreneur, a full-time real estate investor, and the founder and president of CHASTE Equity Partners, LLC. She's a native of the Philippines who migrated to Los Angeles in 1983, armed with $100 and a degree in accounting, a free fare from her former employer, Philippine Airlines, as an accountant analyst, and a fearless drive to pursue the American dream. Chat is passionate about helping others through educating and empowering women in multifamily investing. Chat co-founded a women's group focusing on multifamily investing called Multifamily Women's Mastermind, with almost 1,000 active members of women apartment owners, operators, and investors, all collaborating and supporting each other. Chat, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Jamil. What an honor to be here. And I'm so excited because your show is about inspiring other people and women, men, in general. And that's what I love. That's what I'm passionate about.
I'm so excited for you to share your story, your message with the community. First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be catching up with you because I've known you for over 2 years now, and I've watched you soar as well with your career, and I'm so proud of you as well.
Thank you so much. That really does mean the world to me, and I'm excited to dive in. And so for all the listeners who aren't familiar with you and your story, I found that successful people, they often have what I call a hero story. Challenges and adversities they've overcome to get to where they are now. If you please share with us, what is your hero story?
I don't know that I have a hero story. I just have to tell you my story. It just in case it inspires, as I told you, one soul out there. I'm an immigrant from the Philippines. I daydreamed and I manifested that I would come here in America one day because I had an aunt that was here working as a nurse. So I would go to the beach coming from an island and look at the sunset, and I would say, because my aunt used to say, it's sunset here and it's sunrise there in the US. So I would look at the sunset and I would say, it's sunset here and it will be sunrise in America. One day I will be there and it will be sunrise in America. And, I kept telling myself that while I'm looking at the sunset. That's why sunset to me has a very, very big meaning in my life ever since I was a child. So that being said, fast forward, I did everything I could to pursue my dream. I got my first job. I made sure that I got a job at Philippine Airlines because I knew that that was my stepping stone to come here in America. Because one of the benefits to migrate to America, for me to be able to afford, first of all, to come to America was to be able to get a benefit from Philippine Airlines. They gave us, if you work there for 2 years, you're entitled entitled to a ticket, round trip ticket to go anywhere in the world that you want. And so I knew, even when I was in college, I've heard about that, and I knew that that was the job I was going to get. regardless. The saying, come hell or high waters, yeah. I will do that. I was offered by my aunt because they were they had, they were wealthy, and I was offered by relatives to get a job somewhere, better job, better paying, but I focused on staying in Philippine Airlines because that is what is gonna help me achieve my dream in coming to America. So fast forward, I came in here, got a job, and it was not easy moving, uprooting your life from the Philippines to another foreign country, but my aunt made it easier for me. And I was just lucky to get a job 5 days later after I came in here. And so that propelled me to a better life, worked, and then got married, raised my son. It sounds like a very easy story, but when I had my son, I wanted to make sure that I raised my son proactively. So I then opened my business, which was the spa business.
Mm.
And through the support of my husband, I was able to do that. That's when I realized being an entrepreneur was within me. That's when I realized that being an entrepreneur gives you freedom, freedom of time, financial freedom, and freedom of quality time with your family. And everything was well and good, but then life happens, and I lost my husband on a sudden manner. While we had so many plans of, retiring and traveling and seeing the world, enjoying retirement, life doesn't work that way. You can never plan, you can never control your destiny. So for a while there, I felt like my world was disrupted because of the sudden loss of my husband. So now all of a sudden, because he was the main breadwinner, really, and because of his business, he was a forensic CPA. He had a thriving CPA firm here. He took care of all our finances. So I didn't have to worry about, when I say finances, including, tax and all these clerical jobs that I would be doing or administrative jobs that I would be doing for my spa. I did not do that because he had his CPA firm. I did not see one bill at my house, water bill or any kind of, because they took care of it in his CPA firm. So you can just imagine the change in my life as soon as he passed on a sudden manner, because not that I didn't know what to do, but all of a sudden it's like for 25 years, I have not done those. And then all of a sudden, I had to face all these, from the smallest household stuff all the way to dealing with his business, the sale of his business and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was operating with fear. I was following what my trust attorney was telling me, my financial manager, my CPA was telling me. I was just following all the advice. I had no plan. I had no concept of planning on my own or of functioning on my own. Then one day I just realized, after maybe 2 years of being so confused, so lost, and in the dark, I just, when my son was my only ally then. He just graduated from college. He just got his job in UCLA. He said to me, "Mom, until you accept that dad is gone and will never come back, we will never move forward. So I then realized that my son was right. Acceptance for any change in your life, whether it's good or bad, is the number one thing that helped me. Acceptance for every change in situation. Once I accepted that, I started owning and like getting a hold of the things I need to get a hold of and be on top of everything, from my finances to everything in the house, in my household at least. And so, and because of that, I also wanted to make sure that financially I will be able, because all of a sudden it was an epiphany, it was an awakening that, hey, my husband's no longer here. He's no longer going to be my financial planner. I will have to take control of this. And so that's what I did. I studied real estate, one by accident also, but I also knew that real estate was one day my real estate investing was at the back of my mind, was my interest. I was also influenced by my husband, my late husband, because he was investing in real estate, not in apartments, but in, you know, developments, single family homes developments here in Los Angeles. So, but then he lost everything in 2008 crash and all that. So that was a learning experience for me, but at the same time, I knew that it was something that I would like to do. And I did. I took some classes in real estate. You know where I got it from? I got it from 2:00 a.m. because I had my insomnia. Infomercials about the flipping. That's how I got it. I got the number and I went to join the seminar here in Los Angeles. No, it was in Las Vegas. And then to turn out, as it turned out, it was one of those scams for me. I was scammed. I don't know why. I didn't know what I was doing. I was too naive. I didn't do my due diligence. So I lost $21,000 for my coaching thing. My coach disappeared. So to find out 2 years later that that happened not just to me, but to a lot of people. So lesson learned. I did not give up, but I made that loss as my drive to definitely learn more about the business and be very, very careful and be do my own due diligence. And that to me was the biggest value and the biggest lesson I learned from this learning, trying to learn real estate. Since then, I discovered apartment investing through that. By me joining that real estate seminar in Las Vegas, I also connected with some other real estate investor. You know, we talked and they told me about podcasts, which I never knew what podcast meant then, and books to read. And so because of the podcast that I just discovered, every time I go into my car, I would turn on the podcast. I would look for a podcast, right, in my cell phone. And then I found this lifetime cash flow. And that's what I said, that sounded so good. I'm gonna sign that, listen to that. And in the first 2 minutes, it says in 3 days, it was Radcliffe's podcast. In 3 days, I will be in LA to do my seminar. And I immediately exited the freeway, called the number, and I said, do you have tickets for me to sign up? But funny enough, I should be very scared, you know, because of my experience, but I didn't allow that bad experience to stop me from moving forward. I don't know why. it just gave me some more drive to learn more about the business. I knew that by learning, the knowledge is power. So I knew that I had no choice to give up, but I knew that I needed to learn more about the business. So I called them and I said, do you have the VIP ticket? Because I knew that if I bought the VIP ticket, that I knew that I will be surrounded by like-minded, more serious people than just the people that are just trying it. That's what I don't know. That's just my thinking at that time. So ever since then, fast forward, I met Radcliffe, and I met the first the wife, Tiffany, who was very nice to me, but I was already very closed up and very scared because of what happened to me in my first attempt to but it took, knowledge is power. So by me getting to know, I told myself, I need to get to know these operators first. I need to get their track records. I need to know their values, and that will align with my values. I need to know their business goals that will align with my business goals. And that's how, eventually, that's the evolution of my apartment investing journey. And fast forward, I've been fortunate enough to be able to get to know all these A-class operators and sponsors. And I've been fortunate to be partners with most of them, because I seek out the type of people that I want to be partners with. You know how they're saying, align yourself with the great people that you want to be aligned with. That was my focus at that time. And then the rest will come. So I guess that's my journey. It's not a heroic journey, but it's something that if I shared to somebody, or if a woman right now whose life is disrupted because they lost their husband in a sudden manner, or divorce, because I have divorced women come to me asking me questions like this too, asking for inspiration, asking for guidance, and also women that widows. And so this is, I guess, it became my passion. It became my mission to help and inspire.
Kat, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I would lovingly and respectfully disagree that I think that you have a immensely wonderful hero story. And I think there are people who are listening to this that they're in challenging moments right now. And so many things that you shared, I'm going to see if I can, if memory serves, I can bring up a few of them that really just hit home. At the start of your, first of all, I want to just acknowledge and commend you for everything you've overcome, the challenges you've experienced, and you didn't let yourself be stopped. And when there was like these roadblocks along the way, whether it be the passing of your husband, or whether it be when you lost the 21,000, things that a lot of people, when that happens to them, they get stuck. You continued moving, and you've created such a beautiful life for yourself now. At the start of your story, when you were talking about being in the Philippines and your family offering you, hey, here's a job that you could have, but you knew in your mind that that won't lead me to where I want to be, even though maybe in the short term, it might be better, and you were so like adamant in what your goal was that you stuck with it, and you came to the US. And then when you ended up losing that money, and I love the way you said it, instead of it being like, oh, I lost the money, I'm going to see it as like, that's an investment that I made. I paid that to learn the lesson so that I don't make that same mistake again going forward, something like that. But there's so much to your story that I think people can grab onto and see that like looking where you're at now and imagining where you were when you were in the Philippines before you moved, it probably feels like it's night and day, a whole different life.
Totally a different life. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just for everyone listening, regardless of where you're at right now, physically in your location, but also where you're at in your life right now, life can change in a truly beautiful and dramatic way if you just keep taking one step at a time, have an idea of what your goal is. Oftentimes I share with my clients this distinction between your macro vision and your micro process. And what I mean by that is your macro vision is what's the dream? Like, what would you love? Let's say when you were in the Philippines, big picture, it might be, I want to go to the US.
Yes.
But then so for everyone listening, you've got, let's say, this vision, this goal, this dream, or maybe you haven't thought about it much and you will at some point, but you've got this goal and that can be really beautiful. And at the same time, if that's all we have, it can actually get discouraging, because if it's so big, it might feel really far away.
Yes.
And if it feels really far away, there's that, wow, I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to that. And then we might get discouraged. Mm-hmm. And courage comes from cur, which is Latin for heart. So when you're discouraged, you're disheartened. And disheartened is like, kind of what's the point? Is what I'm doing actually making a difference because it feels so far away? So mm-hmm. macro vision is beautiful to have, but that's mm-hmm. kind of step one. Step two is micro process, meaning how do you win the day? What are the steps to take just today? The 1, 2, 5 steps, whatever that is for you, mm-hmm. that actually makes meaningful progress towards the direction you want to go. And so like you did so wonderfully, you had your macro vision, but then every day it's like, what do I need to learn? What job do I need to take? What steps do I need to take? After your husband passed and it was like, okay, with my financial situation, what do I need to learn? With real estate, you started listening to podcasts. It brought up to my mind, Brian Tracy. He talks about the idea of make your car a mobile classroom. Using, yes. Podcasts weren't around at the time when he was teaching, but it was more about like audio programs, stuff like that. But the same thing applies.
Very true.
You were driving around, learning, becoming stronger, wiser, smarter in all these different ways. And then when the opportunity came to make that investment with Rod Khleif in the real estate space, you didn't allow a past experience to stop you. And so often, unfortunately, we do that. We say, because something that seems relatively similar happened to me before and it didn't go well, I'm not going to trust this current opportunity. But the challenge there is that makes you, in a way, a slave to your past. Mm-hmm. Something that happened to you that's not happening now, just because, for example, maybe you were in a bad relationship at one point, and now this new person's in your life.
Yes.
This new person has nothing to do with the old person. But if we bring that baggage with us, mm-hmm. we might mess up something really beautiful right now. And so again, just all that to say, really, really inspiring to hear the choices that you made along the way, that you didn't let yourself be stopped, and that you really dove in to make, life as beautiful as it can be for you and for your son.
It can be. It can be. It's not without roadblocks. It's not without challenges. But definitely it can be beautiful if you just know how to overcome the roadblocks, and you just know how to get to the road less traveled. I think I wrote that in my latest post, but it's true. It's very true. I'd like to say I'm fortunate. I'm lucky, but at the same time, I gave my work and I did everything I could to proactively get to the situation where I am now.
Yeah.
Yes, because you know how I also believe in the saying, do your best and God will do the rest. You still have to get to work. You still have to know what it is that you're getting into to be able to achieve success. Success is not easy to achieve. It requires a lot of work and dedication. And I'm not one that should be claiming that I'm successful. Really, I just find myself in the best situation of my life right now, coming from where I came from. It's because I did my best I did my work. I just like what you said, when it came to the multifamily investing, what I did first was I took that multifamily investing education to a degree where it was like a total immersion in my life.
Yeah.
Almost like an obsession. I get into my car, I go into walking, I have my earplugs listening to podcasts. I go home, I read, I go home, I do my analysis. Fortunately, I do have some understanding in my numbers because I became an accountant, but seriously, it takes a lot of work, but it pays off in the end. Someone just asked me, how come you don't talk about apartment investing in your post, in your social media post? It is because, one, I don't aspire to be an operator anymore. I don't aspire to be, because that's a lot of work. And for me, I respect, there's a lot more experts out there that can, do that, because apartment investing is a teamwork. So I realized my value. I recognized the value that I can contribute to an apartment investing team. And therefore, what I bring as the value, that's what I can contribute to the team. And so far, it has worked for me. It worked really well in the apartment investing world because it's a teamwork. One may be expert in asset management. One may be expert in finding the deal off market. One may be expert in analysis of the deal. And then one will be an expert or a connector of raising equity. And that's when I realized that's where I come in.
Yeah, there's a few things there that I think are really powerful for people to tune into. The first one is this idea of success.
Mm-hmm.
No, I want everyone listening to see that success is a concept. Success is man-made. Success is just a story that we tell ourselves, right? And so each of us gets to decide whether or not we feel successful, because you determine what a successful life means to you. And so, I think it's almost like a, not a paradox, but there's two things that are true at the same time. What I just said is true. And at the same time, something that Chat was alluding to, whatever it is that you want to be great at, it's going to require effort. It's going to require you putting yourself into it. And the more successful you want to be, using the phrase as society usually uses it, the more you're going to have to immerse yourself in it, which again, if you enjoy it, it's not a problem. It's a good thing. But the more you immerse yourself in it, the more you spend time with people that are doing that, the more you learn from the people that are having the levels of success that you want to have. And the more you can align yourself with them, like Chad said earlier, the quicker that success comes. But I think it was, I heard it from Les Brown originally. I'm not sure who said it, but the idea of anything worth doing is worth doing badly until you get it right. And so it's like, whatever it is you love, regardless of where you're at right now, there's a lot you don't know and you can learn. Yes. And it's like, you're always going to get closer and closer the more you put yourself into it. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Chat, when you were in the challenging moments, you mentioned, there was kind of roadblocks, stumbling blocks along the way. When you were in the darker times, the challenging moments, what did you tell yourself? What did you remind yourself that allowed you to keep moving forward?
I had faith in my God. So that was number one that I was holding on to. And also I had my why. My why was my son. And so there were just the two of us against the world almost. That felt like it at that time, because during my husband's death, which I did not mention to you, there were all of a sudden, there were so many people coming out of the woodworks that I did not know, claiming for, for the business of the death of my husband. So those are the things I had to go through that was so challenging and difficult. While grieving, I could not even have grieve because of all these vultures. I call them vultures now, but because of that, it gave me strength to focus on, one, my son being my ally and my why, and two, to make sure that I move forward. And I don't know, it just gave me strength to be able to get over everything without thinking further than what was in my day. It was a day to day. It was hard to wake up in the morning and listening to all these phone calls about especially about the death of my husband. Yeah. It was difficult, but at the end of the day, it was my son that encouraged me to be strong. And he might not realize it, but he was my why, he was my ally. And also faith in God really gave me the strength. At the end of the day, Jamil, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Yeah. And that's what it did for me.
In response to the why, for everyone listening, people will very often do much more for the people that they care about than they will if it's just about themselves. And it reminds me of this Abraham Lincoln quote where he ran for office. I don't quote, I might misquote the exact number, but I think it was like 15 or 16 times. He ran for office and he lost every time, except for the last one. And somebody said to him after he won, "How did you keep going?" And he said, "I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down." And with that in mind, for everyone listening, one question that could be very motivating and inspiring for you is to really think, who else is counting on me? Who else wins if I win? How does their life improve specifically? Visualize it, see their life. And then what happens if I give up? What happens if I slow down? Who else's life is negatively impacted? What beautiful things are they no longer going to experience? What beautiful things is not going to be brought into the world? Whatever version, because think about it, like our motivation can be toward the pain side and toward the pleasure side. And I think it's useful to use both. And when you use both, one is kind of pulling you and drawing you toward it. That's so amazing. I'd love to create that. Oh, I can do that for my son. I can do that for my partner. That would be wonderful. Oh, my success benefits the world. Maybe all these charities, all these other people that benefit. Incredible. Coupled with what happens if I don't do it? And then think about all the kind of the beauty that does not get brought into the world and how your life doesn't experience like the blossoming that it could. It might experience it in a different way, but at least that dream that you have wouldn't necessarily happen if you took your foot off the gas. And so just that why I have found to be very, very important. And thank you for sharing, such a wonderful answer.
Thank you.
So for anyone listening, maybe they've lost their partner, maybe they've experienced a divorce recently, let's say, or maybe they've just got other challenges in their life and they can relate to aspects of your story. What advice could you share with them that could help them move forward right now?
That there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. I was once told this when everything was so dark for me. And I said to them, "You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea." Yes, it's true. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. Now I know. I've been through it, so I can truly say that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's so bright out there once you get there. So bright.
It reminds me of, how does it go? There's a quote. It'll come back to me. It came and left within like a second. But yes, there's always, it's like the storm hasn't come to stay, it's come to pass. That was the quote. And so this idea of when we're in the thick of it, it feels like it's almost hopeless. It feels like we're in such a heaviness in the muck.
Yes.
And yet, and it's almost like we can't see that light. And then someone like yourself comes along who's been there and you've experienced, your version of that. And just that encouraging word, just that smile, just like, it's going to be okay. Just like, hey, maybe can I hold some space for you? Do you need to talk about anything? I'm here for you. Just that support that either someone listening right now might need it. And then I strongly encourage you to ask for it. But also maybe there's someone else in your life who needs it. And you could be that for them and you could give them that support. And it's truly incredible that, like you said, when we get through it to the other side, there are happy moments again. There is laughter again. There is success again. There is love again. And all these wonderful things are on the other side of that. But there's that Winston Churchill quote, when you're going through hell, keep going. Because if you stop, then you're just in hell. But if you keep going, at some point you get out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just don't give up.
Yeah.
I almost did. Maybe a couple times in my life, but thank God I did not. You just plug along, you just push through, you just get up, and no matter how hard it is, just get up out there and just one little step at a time. There was one time where for 24/7, I would be just in my jammies. Getting up was the hardest. It was so hard to even get up. But once I learned to get up and then maybe dress up a little bit, then maybe go and sit by the sun, and then maybe go out, and then you start so little by little, steps by steps, and it will get you through it. Just don't give up. That's what I can tell somebody right now. If somebody asked me right now, just there's hope. There's again, I kept saying this light at the end of the tunnel, because it truly is. It happened to me many times.
Yeah.
So just don't give up.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's a commencement speech that I often quote that Steve Jobs gave in Stanford, and it's on YouTube. It's great if anyone wants to check it out. And there's a line there in the talk where he says, "We can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only do it looking backward." And so we look at our life as it is now, and then we look back, and all of a sudden, if we're really paying attention, the things that happen to us along the way, the hardships, the challenges, oftentimes we look at our life right now and we see, wow, I would not have certain degrees of success. I wouldn't have been able to help certain people. Some of the best things in my life right now wouldn't be here if I didn't go through certain pains and challenges. And we're able to connect that dot looking backwards and say, at that moment, I didn't think I was going to make it. At that moment, I was going to give up early. At that moment, I was so ready to check out.
Yeah.
And then we kept going, and now we're experiencing this wonderful experience, and we look back and we say, I'm so glad I didn't do that. Now notice that the same thing will be true going forward. Anytime new challenges come, anytime new hardships come, you can apply that same thinking and say, just like last time, I'm feeling that kind of maybe defeatist attitude. Just like last time, I'm feeling like giving up.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, because I know that where I'm going matters to me. And I know that this storm will pass, and I'm going to get to the other side, because I have done it 100% of the time leading up to this moment. It's like you have a 100% track record. There's no reason to doubt yourself.
Yeah. And also I tell women that talk to me, because I do have women that talk to me, and I tell them that because they ask me, do you wish you didn't have to go through this? Do you wish that you didn't have to go through all this pain that you had to go through? And I said, no, I don't, to be honest with you, because it gave me more sympathy, because I went through what I had to go through. And I didn't mention to you that I was a single mother when my son turned 1 year old. 1 day, 1 year old and one day. And he became from then on, he has always been my ally. It's almost like a me and you and me against the world. And it repeated when, when he was an adult already, and his father, who technically was his stepdad, but who raised him, lovingly raised him, and he knew him as his father, no one else. And so the dynamic of what we went through, the two of us, and what I went through was very, very instrumental to me being, one, sympathetic, and and maybe helpful to those people that went through with what I went through.
Something that comes to mind when you say that is that expression, our mess becomes our message. And there's people that are listening right now who they've gone through some things, they've experienced challenges, they've learned lessons, and maybe you're keeping it to yourself. Maybe there's people around you who are going through the same challenges, and they actually feel all alone. They feel like nobody understands. They feel like I'm the only one going through this. Meanwhile, you're at dinner with them, and right there, like, you are right next to them, and you could offer such heartfelt wisdom and understanding and compassion and empathy and hold the space for them because you've been there, and you could support. And sometimes we're afraid to do that. We're afraid to open up and be authentic. And you have so graciously and wonderfully opened up your heart.
This is my first time to share this in your show, to be honest with you. No one knows more about my life that much. I stopped from when I migrated to I jumped to multifamily investing, but really my life has been, a series of life lessons that I can honestly say I can empathize and sympathize and have compassion. I think that's one of the reasons why I support orphanages, because it's like what I went through as a child also. I feel bad for the kids that are that don't have this loving nurturing environment in the orphans, so that's one of the reasons also that I have more empathy and compassion for them, because I was just sharing this to my mastermind last 2 weekends ago in Malibu, and they were amazing 12 high power, high caliber women, and I'm just so fortunate to be with them. But I was just sharing with them my passion of wanting to help women and these orphans, because I do have this compassion, I guess, because of what I went through in life.
It's something that you said, I don't normally share this part of my story, and I usually jump past it. And for everyone listening, just recognizing, at least from my perspective, authenticity, and as weird as this might sound, vulnerability is strength. And I find that so many of us, on the one hand, because of technology, our world is more connected than ever before.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, in a very real way, we're more disconnected than ever before, because so many of us, we have this mask that we wear. It's a facade. It's this persona. Who do I want you to think that I am? How do I want to present myself, And from that space, most people try to look like they've got it all put together and nothing goes wrong in their life. And I don't like how I worded that. So not that nothing goes wrong, because that's relative, but just this idea that they don't experience challenges, they don't experience hardships, like life is just perfect all the time in their subjective experience. And when that's somebody that we're spending time with, it can be hard to connect to that person. It can be hard to really think that they understand what we're going through. And as an example, in the first episode of this podcast, I shared, my story as it relates to my father and why I do what I do and that whole experience. And I've had people messaging me just from that episode where I just share from the heart, and they say, wow, I had tears in my eyes while you shared that. Wow, I don't know if I would have been able to open up like that for everyone to hear. Wow, that turned everything around. And I share that because, again, you've got something, you've got a story, you've got a life experience, you've got something that you've gone through, that you've learned from, that when you share that, it gives people around you permission to open up as well. It gives people around you permission to say, wow, if he can do it, if she can do it, maybe I can do it too. And then they go, oh, just like me. That phrase, just like me, I think is so powerful because, again, most people think that they're all alone. Most people think that no one else understands what they're going through because people don't talk about it. You look on social media, like you mentioned earlier, and most people are just posting the highlight reel. They're posting what they want you to see. They're posting the quote unquote wins, but they don't post the challenges usually. They don't post the hardships usually. And so now it's like, your life. And so the challenges and the hardships, but then if you're not really connecting with people that are opening up and being willing to be authentic like that, it doesn't seem like anyone else is going through this. And, we're all, from my perspective, spiritual beings having a human experience. And in that human experience, there's going to be the highs, there's going to be the lows, there's going to be the challenges, there's going to be the pain, there's going to be all that. And the more I think you can share that with a lesson in mind, it's not just share it and like dump it on somebody, it's you share it, but you've overcome it and you've learned from it and it's made you who you are today. And now that going back to the mess becomes the message. You use that challenge and that hardship to help other people, to help the world, to make your life better going forward. And I just think you are doing that wonderfully. And so I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Jamil. It's always fun talking to you because it's about life, about, this is for real,
Yeah.
So.
The foundation of this show is to help people create an extraordinary life without regret. Given what that means to you, is there any advice that you'd give to people who are trying to do that?
Just keep your focus. Don't give up on your dreams. Do one step, as I said earlier, do one step at a time and make your life intentional. Make your everything that you do intentional. For me, for example, parenting. I'm just giving this an example.
Yeah.
Parenting a boy here in Los Angeles is one of the most challenging because there's easy access to drugs and crimes and all that. And, and the neighborhood that we lived in was at that time when he was when my husband was alive and life was good. We were living in a wealthy and affluent neighborhood, and so therefore you hear all these kids have easy access to drugs because they have money. So to me, everything is intentional. When I say intentional, it was my intention to put my son. It was very intentional for me to put my son in a school an hour away, a Jesuit all-boys school, an hour away from where we live, versus 5 minutes where he can walk because it's one of the richest schools in the world. 5 minutes from where we lived. You see what I mean? Everything is intentional because I want my son to be in the reality of humanity. I want my son to be with the kids where he's not the pauper among the rich. So that's just one of the examples that I'm saying intentional. For example, when I was a little kid, I definitely wanted to go to America. So my grandmother, because I grew up with my grandmother, said, "Don't have any boyfriend. So I never did. I never did till I came here in America. And because I wanted to come to America, it was intentional that I focused on getting a job in an airline industry because I couldn't afford coming here. And also it was intentional for me to not take the easy way out, where my family, I had aunts and uncles that had influence in me getting a great job right away. I did not take that because of the bigger picture of me getting to America and fulfilling my dream and passion. So I feel that if one has a dream or a passion, don't give up, and make sure that you do one step at a time, with intention and with purpose, not just for yourself, but for everyone else that you affect in your life.
I love your response. You know, the word intention or intentional, another way might be like deliberate. When we live our life that way, you know, we're clear. It kind of goes back to the macro vision, micro process idea. We're clear on what it is that's important to us, like what matters. Like, this is what I want. I'd love to experience that. And every day with intention, with deliberateness, what's the step I take? What do I do? What do I do? What's next? What's next? Versus very often, many people, we wake up and we live unconsciously. We might wake up and we live unintentionally, almost as if I wonder what's going to happen today, versus, oh yeah, I'll tell you what's going to happen today. That doesn't mean that there's not unexpected events, of course, but that, you know, oh, when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to do these 5 things. Now, that doesn't mean something might come up that might take you off course, but the point being, you've got the intention to do that and you're committed to it and you dive in. And that can be in your relationship, that can be in your business, that can be with your fitness, that can be with your health, your nutrition, all these different areas. Intentionality is absolutely, in my experience, crucial to creating that extraordinary life. So thank you so much.
And in business, someone asked me, why are you everywhere? I see you in boot camps, I see you in seminars, I see you in meetups, I see you in online Zoom calls. I was like, it's because I do that deliberately. I want to be totally immersed in my business. And that's part of my work and my strategy in getting to where I am now, because, you know, aligning yourself with like-minded people, with the winners, is one of the best things that you can do to improve yourself, and best way towards success. I like to be in a room full of many successful, many smart people, way smarter than me, way more successful than me. I like to be the dumbest in the room, because that's one way for me to one, the inspiration you get from that is insurmountable. It's like unbelievable. And 2, it pushes your limit. And 3, that's when you realize that there's no limit to what you can do by seeing your inspiration, by being around these people that are winners.
Yeah, it brings to mind when we have a certain, think of it like a thermostat. We have a certain set point that we think is normal, and that becomes where we kind of typically play. Financially, relationally, weight-wise, every metric you could possibly have, you've got kind of a comfort zone, and they change, they're different in every area. And so, using business as an example, like you said, you know, maybe you make a certain amount of money, or maybe you produce a certain amount of content, or whatever that is, and that becomes normal for you. And maybe you've got some friends that you talk to on a regular basis that kind of produce similar amounts of content, maybe similar amounts of money that they bring in. But then you do like what you did. You go to some event, and let's say on average, they're making 10 times more than you are, or they're creating 10 times more content. But here you are thinking there's nothing else you can do to make more money, and you don't have any extra time to make more content. And then you sit there going, well, how are they doing this? And you start asking questions and you meet people and then you get opened up to different ways of doing it that you never thought about. And then you fast forward a year and maybe you go to the conference again.
Yeah.
But this time you're making 8x more than you were last time. And it pays itself back immensely, just learning from those who are further along on the journey.
Yes, for sure.
So as it relates, was there something you wanted to add?
No. Unfortunately, in the family investing space, everyone's so generous with their, and very giving with their, experiences, whether it's about, sharing their expertise or their experiences. It's very inspiring. So
Yeah, just when you said that, it reminds me of, there is a headspace we can be in, I'll call it, let's say, scarcity, and another headspace we can be in, which would be, let's say, abundance.
yeah.
And scarcity thinking typically leads to the opposite of what you just described. People achieve a certain level of success and they don't want to share. They don't want to tell people how they did it. They don't want to, oh yeah, this is like some potholes to avoid along the way.
Yeah.
Because they think that if other people win, then they lose somehow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in my perspective, that is false. That's not true. And when you recognize that, wow, what if I'm winning by my own definition and I do everything I can to help everyone I meet win too? When you notice that, people now want to be around you. And like Chad said, in real estate and also in many areas of life, there's a team component. I often tell people life and business are relationship games. When you are the reason people smile, when people want to be around you, when people say, wow, last time I was with Chat, last time I was with whoever, I got so much from that experience. And because of that, I applied it and my business got better. My relationship got better. I tweaked A, B, and C in my life. And that made a really big, meaningful impact.
Yeah.
It goes such a long way. Then you become memorable in a positive way. And then, like you said, someone who says, wow, I saw you on the meetup group. I saw you on that conference. I saw you over here.
Yeah.
Then they want to know you. They want to introduce people to you. New opportunities come to you. And the beauty for me, in my mind, is when the intention is solely coming from a heart-centered space of, I'd rather see people succeed than suffer. And I'd rather see people just smile and do well. And I'm going to share with them. I'm not really intending to get anything from myself, but just by doing that, people refer, people connect, people want to be around you, opportunities show up just because you're doing the quote unquote right thing. And if you just did that, like be that reason someone smiles today, it's incredible how far that goes.
Just like what you're doing right now, Jamil, you're one of the best out there. So, I don't know if I should disclose that I once sought your help when I was down and, and needed your help. So, and you helped me tremendously, and that meant a lot.
Thank you. I look back in my mind as you say that to our time together, and it was amazing. And thank you so much for remembering that and for saying that. I find that oftentimes there's risks that we take in our life that in hindsight, we look back and we say, I am so grateful that I took a chance on that. I'm so grateful I took that risk because something really beautiful came out of it. What would you say is the biggest risk that you've taken that you're deeply grateful for, and why?
Oh, wow. Personally or business wise, or
either one?
The parenting. I would go for my parenting. It's the biggest job I've ever accomplished. I have done, and I still continue to do so. I was very fearful to become a mother, but when I did, I'm very happy that I did. And as far as like business, I couldn't say just one. Okay. As far as business, I'm very happy that I did not give up on learning and pushing through regardless of what I initially experienced with, my loss as far as losing my $21,000. I made that as my propeller to learn more, to achieve more.
Yeah, when you talked about, and this kind of applies to both of them, but especially the becoming a mother, when you said I was fearful, but then after the fact, it's like, I'm so happy I did it and it was so wonderful. That applies to what you were sharing earlier. There's things that people are going through right now, or they're potentially about to go do, and they're fearful.
Yeah.
And it's like, oftentimes we come from that perspective of, what if it doesn't go well? What if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
But notice that that's only one side of the possibility.
Yeah.
What if it goes incredible? What if it ends up being infinitely better than you could have imagined? And then the following question is, well, how would you know? You only know if you try.
You try, exactly. And there's always risks in every undertaking in life. I just realized that there's always, you're always going to be exposing or be exposed with some kind of risk. There will always be a risk, whether you're just investing a $5,000 to $5 million. There's always a degree of risk. To mitigate that is, one, to acknowledge that there is a risk, and two, to educate yourself and know really well what you're going through. And even that, you still cannot control everything. So in life, there's just give a little bit of margin for error and mystery.
Absolutely. For this idea of, in life, we don't get to not take a risk. We don't get to not make a sacrifice. What we do get to do is make the decision of which risk do we want to take, which sacrifice do we want to make. And what I mean by that is, like you said, maybe you're going to make a financial investment. Maybe you're going to tell somebody how you feel about them. You're going to ask them out. Maybe you're going to propose. Maybe you're going to move to a whole different country like you did, right? Yeah. So there's the risk of doing it. That's one choice. But then there's the risk of not doing it. And oftentimes we think that there is no risk to not doing it. We think staying the same is like a safe bet, but it's not, because I often think of life metaphorically like a treadmill, and think of it from the perspective that what happens if you're on a treadmill and you just stop?
Yeah,
exactly. Stand still? No. The treadmill keeps moving. Like you go back. And so in that same kind of way, for example, using the financial side of it, there's a risk of making that investment. But if you don't do it, and let's say it was a good investment and it takes off, you chose to not do it. So that's the risk. If it was a relationship and you didn't want to risk sharing how you felt, well, the risk was you don't get to be with that person and they might have said yes.
And you won't feel the happiness of being in a great relationship. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's all right, given that there's a consequence on either side, given there's a risk on either side, which one can I live with? Which one can I be with and say, I'm really happy I did that. There's a quote, 20 years from now, you'll be more, I don't think upset was the word, disappointed. I would say 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the things that you did. When you come from when you realize that, wow, if I try at something that really matters to me, it's something that I want, and it doesn't work out the way I wanted it to, I have a great story. But if I don't try at something that really matters to me, I have a lot of regret.
Yeah. And regret is a very useless emotion, I guess. It's called emotion. No, I would not want to be in that position just to regret because I didn't do something. I'm the type, and I see this from a lot of my friends, family even, they don't take the risk. But life becomes, you're choosing to become, I guess my point here is you're choosing mediocrity over living a life that is more colorful. You took the risk. I can take the risk, but it gives me the experience and it gives me the color to my life, because I choose to take a little bit of the risk.
Yeah, something that comes up is, there might be some people who are listening who, for whatever the reason, they think that there's almost like an external pressure that you and I or anyone else that's saying similar things is kind of putting on them, that you got to make your life like bigger and more grand than it is now. And I don't want to speak for you, but at least for myself, that is not, the case at all. It's more a matter of, are you, and like, for example, for me, how do I define success? Loving my life, falling in love
Very
with my
so.
life. And notice I use it as a verb. Falling in love with my life is a constant process, the day by day experience. And if I love me and I'm loving my life, I'm doing good. Now, from that perspective, you look at your life right now, and it's a simple question. Given what you want, are you living your life from fear or from love? If you're living from fear, you're coming from that space of, it would be really cool. That would be fun. That would be exciting. And then you don't do it. And you kind of shrink into this hole because the what if, all the negative sides.
Yeah.
Living from love is, wow, that could be amazing. That could be exciting. What a contribution that would be to other people and to myself, how expansive this thing might feel. And then we do it regardless of the outcome. It's a win because you're exercising that courage muscle. And when you do that, regardless of how it turns out, you're better off. And then you consistently choose love. You consistently put down fear. Fear isn't, let's say, a problem. Fear, like I often tell people, there's rational fears and there's irrational fears. The rational fears are like, don't jump out of the plane without a parachute. It keeps you alive. But the irrational fear prevents you from living. The irrational fear is, there's that person I'm interested in. Not going to talk to them. Here's this dream that it's been calling to me my whole life, but what if it doesn't work? So I'm just going to stay where I'm at and I'm not happy. So the key, kind of bringing that home, is if you're happy, if you love your life and you don't really want any more, awesome. Really happy for you because you are doing it right. But if you're also coming from the space, if you're not also, but if you're coming from the space of, I'm not really fulfilled and I'm not really happy, and there's a lot of things I would love. And maybe I have a dream list of all these things that would be great. But like Chat said, whether it's conscious or not, I'm choosing to play small and I'm choosing fear and I'm choosing mediocrity every day. The good news is that every moment you get to recreate yourself. Every moment you have a choice to choose anew. What life do you want to live going forward? And will your current decisions and choices move you in that direction? And if the answer is no, you get to decide if you want to do something about that.
Yeah. And also you mentioned success. Success to me is not defined by what you possess, how much money you have, how big is your house. I don't define it that way. To me, success is living the life that you always wanted to live by having the freedom of time to love your family, and freedom to be able to help even just one soul, or for me, in my case, orphanage, my orphanage that I support, and freedom to be able to help, even talking to Zoom like this one-on-one with women that want to be inspired. To me, that's success. That's a success. The fact that I am now able to inspire people, when 5 years ago, I was like, maybe 7 years ago, I was like in the sofa, could not even get up, So that to me is success. And I'm very grateful for my life.
And so I first of all, I'm grateful that you're grateful for your life, and I'm grateful for you spending the time with us today and being here. As we wrap up, is there anything right now that you're working on that you're really excited about?
I think I just mentioned it. I have a deal going on, of course, with my apartment investing deal that's still cooking. It's over 200 units but aside from that, my personal thing, my son just got married, and it was the happiest moments of our lives.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. The most important thing is, it just told me how it's almost a culmination of my parenting this kid, and as he turned out to be a good human being and married a good beautiful human being inside and out. And preparing, gearing towards visiting my orphanages and hopefully being able to contribute more, not just financially, which that's my goal, but to be able to personally to fill my cup and soul, to personally visit them.
Love that. Love that. And so for our listeners who would love to learn more, to connect with you, to have conversations with you, to be part of your community, maybe, what are some ways that people can connect with you?
I'm very active in my social media right now. Speaking of social media, that's the easiest way to find me at chat.sarmiento.steinwald in Instagram, and in Facebook, chat Sarmiento-Steinwald. And I'm available for messaging, and I'm here.
Awesome. I'll have the links to everything that Chat just shared in the show notes, so it's clickable, easy to find.
And of course, in LinkedIn for my business.
Perfect. I'll have that in there as well. and for everyone listening, if you enjoyed our conversation, it would mean a lot if you took some time, made a review, whether it's on Apple or Spotify or anywhere you listen to this. It goes a long way. It helps the show with the algorithm, but it also allows other people to check the show out and say, I'm going to give that a shot. And there might be one nugget from one episode that changes their whole life, and you got to be a part of that. And so please, if you would be open to that, we'd really appreciate it. Chat, before we close, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you so very much, Jamil, for giving me the chance to give you my story, tell you my story, to inspire other women out there, as I said. And I am grateful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm grateful as well. Thank you. As I said at the start of our show, my life's work is to help leaders, champions, and high performers create an extraordinary life without regret. If you're going through something right now, whether it's in your business, your mindset, your relationships, happiness, fulfillment, that full spectrum of the human experience, and I can be of support, I'd love to have a conversation with you. You can book that at jamilsayed.com. And if you're looking for other podcast episodes, content that I put out over the years, you can connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Jamil Sayed, just at DR, and then my name, Facebook, Jamil Sayed, or LinkedIn, Jamil Sayed. You'll also have the notes in addition to everything Chat shared in the show notes below. Thank you again for being with us today, Chat. For everyone tuning in, thank you for the time, the attention, the energy, and your presence that you give. And some of you are listening every episode, which I really appreciate. Please continue to share this with people so we can keep growing the movement. And what I have found is that most people's favorite day to change their life is tomorrow. And that's why they stay stuck. But you can be different. For you, transformation can start today. I mentioned every day we reinvent ourselves. Every moment you have the opportunity to be different, to make new decisions towards the life you'd like to live. So think about what Chat shared, what I shared today. Think about what you can use from that and apply. Ask yourself that fun and special question: what would my future self thank me for? And then go do that, and you'll be happy you did. Wishing you the best, and create a meaningful day. All my love. Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation served you, it would mean a lot if you left a review and shared this with anyone who may benefit. An extraordinary life without regret is available to you now. Choose it. It's your time.